What I can tell you is that, my personal side, I am taking all of my compensation in equity. I took my bonus last year in equity at year end, and now my salary is all 100% paid in equity. So as the share price is at these levels, I'm continuing to add to my position.
Today's guest is a supporting sponsor of Liberty in Finance. Welcome back to Liberty in Finance. We're glad to have this distinguished returning guest. Tony Giardini is the president and CEO of Trilogy Metals. He's joining us again this Monday, June 20th, 2022 on Liberty in Finance. Tony, thanks for coming back on.
Thanks for having us back on. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been the better part of a year since we had you together with Rick Rule for a panel discussion, and it was very interesting. We're glad to have you back for an update. It's been too long, frankly. We'd love to get insight from you on some of the progress that Trilogy is making that our viewers need to be aware of who are potential investors and are following the mining industry in general, because we were warned by Keith Neumeyer and others about critical metal shortages because of the lag in mining exploration, development, and et cetera, versus the burgeoning demand for metals that are being demanded from the new electric economy, et cetera. And it's part of a bigger picture of the global commodities bull market. So could you bring us up to date on the latest revelations that Trilogy is finding from their learning that they're doing and the development of their programs?
Sure. I think since we last talked, we obviously got the drill results from our 2021 program. Those came in at the latter part of 2021, early 2022, and they continued to highlight that the Ambler Mining District is in fact a world-class district. We had some phenomenal holes. There was one hole that was an infill hole that was 20 meters at roughly 12% copper equivalent. So things are looking very good from an exploration perspective. We announced a big program for this year, and we're on the ground right now as we speak, doing some drilling up in the Ambler Mining District, and we'll be having additional drill results coming out probably in the fall and heading into November, December, just given the backlog that's out there because of a demand on the drilling side. So we feel very good about what's happening as far as the exploration perspective. Things are very positive. We had a lot of, as you know, we're a joint venture partner with South 32, and we work with South 32 to develop an exploration strategy together with the Ambler Metals JV team. And so we've got agreement on that, and now it's about executing. So as I said, we're excited. We think we've got a great drill contractor. We're using Major Drilling. There's 3 drill rigs committed up in Alaska, and we're looking forward to coming out with those results. I think the biggest news that came out with respect to Trilogy over the last 6 months or so was with respect to the road. And again, what I thought we would do is maybe just I can pull up some slides and just talk a little bit specifically about the road itself and use the slides as a basis for doing that. So this is our corporate presentation, which is on our website. So for any of the listeners that are interested in looking at this in more detail, I encourage you to visit our website. It's our June update. And I'm not going to go through the specifics. I really want to talk about the district and the road. This is the district itself that we've talked about before. It's 181,000 hectares. So it's a big land position, and we are 50-50 JV partners with South 32. And we've got lots of money to spend on exploration with over $100 million in the JV that's focused on advancing the project. In order for this project to get built, we need support from the local communities, and that's an area called the Northwest Arctic Borough, and this slide shows the various communities in and around where the proposed access road is and where the proposed mine is. And what's good about the communities that we're working with is that they have a rich mining history. They're effectively partners with Teck at Red Dog Mine, Nana is, and the communities are getting significant jobs and employment opportunities from Red Dog. So our project fits quite nicely into the skill sets that have developed in this region already. And for this project to go forward, this project has been around since effectively the 1950s, early 60s, and the biggest challenge has always been infrastructure. So about in 2011, that's when Trilogy effectively reached an agreement with NANA to incorporate and create that entire region. And that was the impetus for advancing the road. And so this is what the proposed road would be in. This UKMP is the Upper Coboq Mineral Property District. And there's a proposed Ambler Access Road, which is about 211 miles, which would tie into existing infrastructure, being the Dalton Highway, and then to Fairbanks, where there's a rail link. So that was a plan, and this was the process that the road undertook. And the road the proposed road is being developed by ADA, which is a state-owned agency in the state of Alaska, and they basically have been working through these steps to get us to where we are today. And the process started in 2015, where the initial permit application baseline data was done. And then since then, all of these various steps have occurred. So there was a notice of intent, public scoping, preliminary EIS, a final EIS in 2019, public comment period, and then additional work done after the public comment period in 2020. And what that culminated with was a record of decision being granted for the road to proceed in July of 2020. So most recently, the news that's come forward has really been this remand of this permit that was issued by the DOI BLM. And it really came on the back of litigation that had been started as soon as the record of decision was granted. There were environmental groups initially from the lower 48, and then environmental groups and some Native communities at the beginning of where the road would begin, still located 30 to 40 miles away from the road, that registered some concerns about the potential subsistence impact that could happen with respect to the road, even though those concerns had ultimately been raised and addressed in the EIS process and the public comment period process, which took over 5 years. And as you know, we had a change in the White House in November of 2020. And when the Biden administration came in, they took over effectively defending this lawsuit. And I think everything was going fine until the administration felt that there was a need to revisit some of the previous work that had been done. And so they went to the courts and asked for effectively a pause on the permit process while the supplemental work is done. So we're now waiting to see what the next steps are as far as that supplemental work is done to allow us to proceed with respect to the road. And the thing that I really want to highlight here is the importance of the communities that support our project and support mining development in the Ambler Mining District. And so these are some of the comments from NANA, which is a Native corporation in the northwest part of the state. They're our partner. And as you can see, they're very keen on advancing this project, and they indicate that 10 out of 11 recognized tribes in the NANA region have filed resolutions in support of the project, as has the Northwest Arctic Bureau and the school district. And then we have some commentary from some of the tribal leaders within those communities highlighting how important they see the development of this road and this project going forward. So we feel like we're in a great position in that we've got strong NANA support and support from the Native communities in and around the district. And we're really focused on waiting to see what additional work the BLM feels is required to effectively restate the permit back to the state that we had when it was originally granted in 2020. So that's probably the biggest news. And on the back of that, we had a lot of volatility in the share price, even though we didn't have permits for this road for a long time. But there was a lot of volatility that came up. And the market doesn't like uncertainty. And so what we're hoping to see is that we get some clarity on, A, what work needs to be done, how quickly it's going to be done, and hopefully get that dealt with so that we can start to continue to advance the development of a road, which, by the way, wasn't anticipated. We weren't anticipating making an investment decision on the road until somewhere around 2024, 2025. So it's not like it's going to be tomorrow, but this uncertainty does obviously create problems in terms of how investors look at the project. So maybe with that, I'll pause and see if you have any sort of follow-up questions.
Well, I know when you and I were on the panel together with Rick Rule, he mentioned, and he mentions routinely, the importance of having deep financial backing, for one, and that's with your partner with South 32. I understand that really strengthens your balance sheet and your ability to pursue long-term strategic goals like this access road, as well as he's talked to us most recently about the investor's mindset during a time of volatility. Our last two interviews with him were specifically addressing market volatility, and he said if you understand the fundamental valuation of a company and its fundamental progress and promise, then if it goes on sale, you should be delighted, not discouraged. So those are two thoughts that definitely come to mind. Can you touch on, if it's appropriate in your view, either the strength of the financial backing that you have, as well as that idea that when you're convinced of the promise that the volatility can actually be your friend rather than work against you?
Yeah, those are two great points. And Rick has been around the space for a long time, and I think he, more than most people, does understand those nuances. So let's deal with the financial position of the corporation. At the JV level, there's over $110 million in the JV right now. That's more than enough money to advance, not just the exploration program, but the road funding agreement that we have with ADA, probably out till 2024, possibly 2025. So we feel like we have a very strong position at the corporate, at the JV level to continue to move things forward. And so that's very positive. And we're in a very good position where we don't have anyone sort of looking over our shoulders as far as there's a need to raise money at the JV level. And then as far as, the question about going on sale, I think it's a great point. And, the share price is roughly half of where it was, or maybe even actually, less than that from even just a year ago. And nothing much has changed other than the Department of Interior coming out and saying, look, we want some supplemental work done so that, we can deal with any of the litigation risk that was associated with the project. So we're going to get that work done as soon as we get clarity on the specifics of what they're looking for. In the meantime, it creates an opportunity for investors to come in and purchase a stock at a lower level. What I can tell you is that, my personal side, I am taking all of my compensation in equity. I took my bonus last year in equity at year end, and now my salary is all 100% paid in equity. So as the share price is at these levels, I'm continuing to add to my position. And not only that, I also reached into my own pocket and purchased about 100,000 shares when the share price dipped, when this news originally came out. So, my point is that I'm certainly demonstrating that I'm committed financially to not just being the president CEO, but investing in the future of Trilogy and the Ambler Mining District.
That's one of the things about our channel and our viewers. We have over 70,000 subscribers, and the tagline of our channel is about awareness and preparedness. Originally, our channel used to be called Reluctant Preppers. That idea of preparedness is positioning yourself ahead of a potential event before the masses become aware of it, because by the time the masses become aware of something, it's no longer the opportunity that it was. And Rick talks about that as a contrarian speculator or investor along the way as well. So we're very familiar with that idea of positioning yourself where you want to be. And certainly people on our viewers list who have been accumulating physical precious metals have noticed, like silver at the lowest price it's been in several years right now, and they're thinking, people who have taken a short-term perspective are thinking, oh, I'm down or whatever, whereas others are just delighted and they're accumulating during these times, seeing it as a once in a generation opportunity. So it's good to know what the insiders are doing. Appreciate your insight on that as well. We have one question for you. There are several submitted by viewers. I think we have time for one. Mike asks about what are the advantages of looking for companies to invest in inside the U.S. or abroad? And that's one of the things about the jurisdiction. I noticed it was mentioned in your presentation that that you showed us a glimpse of was some advantages of the jurisdiction. Can you talk to us specifically about that, why this is advantageous to Trilogy and to its investors where you're located in the operations?
Well, I've spent a lot of time working in interesting jurisdictions around the world, including, I could name a bunch, but, just Mongolia, DRC, South Africa, Mauritania, Russia. Look, what I can tell you is being in a tier one jurisdiction like a U.S. is a big advantage. With that, though, there's issues that come along, and it's usually tied to the permitting process that ends up, taking longer than you would like. But that's part of being in a rule of law jurisdiction. And so the good thing is that we are in that type of jurisdiction, and we have to work through those issues and make sure that there's due process in terms of where we get to. And we know that this is not a sprint, but this is about getting this done right. And we feel very good about what we're doing. And I think, it's not just being in a tier one jurisdiction, being in the great state of Alaska, but having a native partner side by side with us. And that native partner is going to have a financial interest. They're going to get jobs that are going to be created in the district. And it's going to provide additional opportunities for training and other things that will create knock-on effects in the communities. We recognize that the concerns are there with respect to subsistence hunting and fishing, and for that reason, the road is going to be a private industrial use road only. And we're very focused on subsistence hunting and fishing, and we're very engaged with the communities. And what's interesting is when you listen to what Nana's talking about, they're talking about controlling their own destiny, and they're talking about making decisions with respect to their own land, and they're talking about legislation that was put in place that was to allow that, and yet, unfortunately, things have somewhat languished. But, to Mike's point, we're very happy to be in the U.S. We're very happy to be in Alaska. And I think the other thing that's quite interesting is what's happening with critical metals or resource products. And we're obviously seeing it with oil and gas at the gas pump nowadays, and where the oil price is, and the importance of having domestic supply of these key metals. And there's certainly been a lot of talk from the various political parties about having domestic sources of supply. And the good thing about our project is it does just that. It's about domestic supply of copper, domestic supply of zinc. There's a large cobalt resource there. We have to figure out how we're going to mine it, but there's a large cobalt resource there. And so we think there's lots of very positives that tie quite nicely into the U.S. Focus on critical metals and having domestic sources of supply. So, we're going to work through the issues, but we feel very good about being in the U.S. as a jurisdiction, and particularly in the great state of Alaska.
Yeah, it's reassuring to know, as you mentioned, 10 of 11 of the local Native communities are in full support of the program. And that was something that's not obvious to people who take a view, understandably, and I assume everybody's coming from a good intention standpoint of trying to make sure that the right thing is done by nature, the right thing is done by the Native communities, et cetera, that there are actually distinct advantages to some of these communities in terms of education, medical, infrastructure, that sort of thing, access to power, et cetera, that they might not otherwise enjoy. They can really benefit and transform the trajectory of a community and their health and well-being. So good for you in pursuing this. It sounds like it's a bit longer than the process was initially. The velocity with which you were checking off done boxes on your PERT chart there has hit a bit of a snag here, or a pause here while you fulfill this latest inquiry. But it's clear that you've taken a very organized and rational and thorough approach, and that is expected to continue. Deep backing, the promise remains, the fundamentals are in place, and the demand, it continues to be almost unimaginable for what some of these metals are. And again, you mentioned the strategic benefits to the country of having those domestically. Fascinating times, really grateful. I wish we had had an update sooner. Glad you're here now. Hope we'll have you back sooner again. And if people want to find out more about Trilogy Metals right now, where should they go?
should go to our website, trilogymetals.com, and lots of information there. Happy to catch up with any shareholders or potential shareholders, give them a bit more of an in-depth update on what's going on. And, we really do appreciate the support. The opportunity to engage and touch base again. And I hope that it won't be as long as it has been between times of getting together and having these updates. So once again, thanks for having us back on the program, and look forward to further updates on our projects and the district as a whole.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. We've been speaking with Tony Giardini, the President and CEO of Trilogy Metals. Folks, don't delay. Go to the description of this video. You'll see the link to Trilogy Metals. You'll get right to there. Call their investment relations team phone number. A lot of people haven't made that step. It's actually not difficult at all, and they're very delighted to talk with people and answer any questions you might have about the company. And Tony, as always, just thank you for joining us here on Liberty and Finance.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having us.